The fourth major obstacle to peace is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Senator Schumer contacted my staff, my senior staff. He's going to make that speech, and I'm not going to elaborate on the speech. He made a good speech.
Well, in the north, you said that you've destroyed Hamas. If Hamas isn't in the north, then how is Hamas taking away food? And if you open up more border crossings and give more food into the area, allow starving people to eat, the looting maybe would subside. That's human nature, no?
Hello everybody, how are you? Let's talk about Gaza again. There is this viral interview of Benjamin Netanyahu that's being widely shared on social media. So Benjamin Netanyahu, he's been doing a series of interviews with American media outlets because the guy is under severe pressure. He has almost accused the US government of trying to topple his regime in Israel. Now, what has happened is, if you look at the developments of past few days, you would understand that indeed the current US establishment is not very happy. I think they are running out of patience now as far as Netanyahu is concerned. So it all started with a fiery speech by Chuck Schumer, who is the senior most Jewish senator in America. He made about 45 minutes long speech I was watching last week, whereby he called Netanyahu as one of the 4 stumbling blocks as far as the peace is concerned in the Middle East. So one of the 4 stumbling blocks. And he also said that it's time for him to go and there should be a fresh election in Israel.
The fourth major obstacle to peace is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has all too frequently bowed to the demands of extremists like Ministers Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and the settlers in the West Bank. I have known Prime Minister Netanyahu for a very long time. While we have vehemently disagreed on many occasions, I will always respect his extraordinary bravery for Israel on the battlefield as a younger man. I believe in his heart he has his highest priority is the security of Israel. However, I also believe Prime Minister Netanyahu has lost his way by allowing his political survival to take the precedence over the best interests of Israel. He has put himself in coalition with far-right extremists like Ministers Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, and as a result, he has been too willing to tolerate the civilian toll in Gaza, which is pushing support for Israel worldwide to historic lows.
Now that sent a shockwave of sorts in Israeli politics. That's number one. Mind you, these are the people who have always sided with the brutal regime of Israel under Netanyahu. So suddenly, for Chuck Schumer to utter those words that he did, came as a big shock, for anybody who sympathizes with Netanyahu and his brutal regime. Few days later, Joe Biden was asked by a reporter what he thought of Chuck Schumer's speech, and to everybody's shock, again, Joe Biden said that it was a very good speech, and Chuck Schumer had apparently discussed that speech with him before he delivered that in the Congress.
Senator Schumer contacted my staff, my senior staff. He's going to make that speech, and I'm not going to elaborate on the speech. He made a good speech, and I think he expressed a serious concern, shared not only by him but by many.
So, Chuck Schumer criticizing Netanyahu, and then Chuck Schumer receiving kind of approval, from none other than the President of America. This came as a big setback for Netanyahu. And that's when Netanyahu decided that it's time for him to go and, put out his version of story, on American media outlets. So he gave an interview to Fox, he gave an interview to CNN, and it's the CNN interview that caught my eyes. I was watching that 15-minute long interview with the CNN anchor, and as you would expect from any American media outlet or for that matter, even in the UK, there is almost a sense of reverence, as far as Netanyahu is concerned. We are not gonna treat him like a potential war criminal. Mind you, if it wasn't Netanyahu and it was some, let's say, African leader or some Arab leader or some, let's say, Asian leader facing the kind of allegation that Netanyahu is facing, our attitude would have been completely different. We would be going, sort of like after that person. We would be giving them proper grief. But then Netanyahu is not an Arab leader. Netanyahu is not an African leader. He is not an Asian leader. He is the leader of the only Jewish country in the world, which is being backed by everybody, all the powerful countries in the world, including America, the United Kingdom, the EU, Canada, Australia, and whatnot. So therefore, their crime cannot be held as crime. Those people, cannot be treated like war criminals, even though, they are killing people at large. So you can make out from the body language of the anchor. I think it's Donna Bash who was interviewing. You can make out from the body language. It was almost like, asking every question with sense of fear. And it's one question which she asked that made Netanyahu speechless. He was silent for 3 to 4 seconds. I counted it. You can count it as well. And what was that question? It wasn't a very attacking question. It was just a simple fact that she stated. So what has happened? Netanyahu said, look at the chronology. So Israelis started their military incursion, of Gaza from north. And they said, we are going to flush out all the Hamas elements. So they did that. Then they went to Gaza Strip. Then they went to South Gaza. And then they pushed almost the entire population to Rafah, which is bordering Egypt. So expectedly, you would think that they have flushed out Hamas, or Hamas as they call, from all the rest of Gaza. So why is famine happening there? Why are people starving in Gaza? And why are they blocking aid? If there is no Hamas element in that part of Gaza, then why are you blocking aids? To which he said, no, we cannot be sending aids to North Gaza, because when we try to do that, all the aid materials were being looted by Hamas people. But hang on a minute. You just said you had flushed out Hamas. So how come suddenly Hamas reappears from nowhere to loot all the aid materials? And this is exactly what the CNN anchor said. Just simple stating of fact. And the guy was clueless. That's exactly the problem you have with all these dictators. You don't have to be extraordinary journalist. You just have to state the fact, and they will not have places to hide. One simple question. And the guy just went silent, and then when he started, he started like uttering all kind of nonsense. That, we have made them, incapable of their military strikes, but nonetheless they still exist. Didn't make any sense.
I think the problem is preventing the looting by Hamas and by others. And that's what we're working on now. I think it's a cooperative effort. Our policy is to enable humanitarian aid. That's been a constant element in our whole program. It's to destroy Hamas militarily, but also to supply the humanitarian aid simultaneously.
Though, sir, it's not
and the main
happening.
obstacle to that is actually Hamas.
It's not happening. Well, in the north, you said that you've destroyed
actually.
Hamas. If Hamas isn't in the north, then how is Hamas taking away food? And if you open up more border crossings and give more food into the area, allow starving people to eat, the looting maybe would subside. That's human nature, no?
Now tell me, if this anchor was interviewing a potential war criminal from Africa or Arab world or from Asia, do you think she would be asking her questions the way she was asking to Netanyahu? Absolutely not. And that's exactly the kind of double standard, people are talking about it. It's our hypocrisy. And that's exactly, the reason why America, UK, and the Western world have become a laughing stock. That's it from me. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. This is one of the many ways that you can support independent journalism. Thank you very much. God bless you all.